Ant-Man being a complete disaster. It's not that it's losing money, it's the continuing decline of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're all showing diminishing returns. And every time one comes out, the headlines are saying, like, oh, it's the highest grossing film in the entire franchise of Ant-Man. And it's like, yeah, but you're not dealing with the drop-offs that you dealt with back in the day with MCU films. Like, this is going to have a massive second week drop-off. It's underperforming overseas. Marvel's in trouble.
And that's the whole like access media as well as this kind of shield media. They always are gonna try to like put sprinkle on a wad of shit. That's just how it happens. And nobody spends that much money to barely make any. That's not just how it works. So when people talk about this, is the main talking point that you've heard many people say with Ant-Man is that, well, it's doing better than its predecessors in terms of the other Ant-Man films. However, you got to take into consideration that they also spent more money than any other Ant-Man film to make it. Not only that, this one got a freaking Super Bowl ad. So Lord knows how much they spent on marketing. So this movie is going to probably have to make like maybe $600 million to even break even. But to act like that would be a success, let's assume that it ends and maybe it does make $620 million. You don't spend $200 million to make only 20. No company is doing that. They're hurting right now, and no amount of like coverage of it's a top of the charts will change the simple fact that Marvel may have, because this was supposed to be a very important film going into this next phase, Marvel may have like kind of lost their sauce. I don't think anybody's making movies just to barely break even.
If you're a comic book person, this is like a joke, man. Like, what did they spend their money on? This is terrible.
The thing is, even like, hey, we don't want to spend money on this. We think it's going to be funny. Like, we think that this joke is going to be so fucking funny that this is the vibe that we're going to go for MODOK.
What the fuck are they thinking, man?
And I saw people online going, well, you know, every character, every villain in the MCU doesn't have to be all serious. It's not like MODOK looked that cool in the first place. I'm like, that's not the point. Like, stop excusing them doing bad work because they just like want to throw a one-off joke of a character that's in the comic books and stuff, because that's all it is. That's how they treat them as source material that they're working with. They don't give a shit about it. It's all a big joke to them.
Didn't somebody put out, well, I don't know if it was Variety, they put out like a fake ass number of like
for Thor.
No, Box Office Mojo had a glitch. So Box Office Mojo had the same glitch that it randomly had during Thor Love and Thunder opening weekend, where it looked like Thor Love and Thunder was like the highest grossing movie of all time, and it wasn't. The same glitch randomly happened. Now, I don't know if it's just happening in Marvel movies first weekend release, or if it's just a problem they have and we're all just really paying attention right now. But it's kind of weird, isn't it, that it happened twice in a row? No, at $225 million opening weekend, was originally projected to make $280 million globally, which still would have been worse than Thor Love and Thunder, but not a ton off. They're like, look, we're back in China, guys. We're going to do it. They projected a $60 million opening weekend in China. They got $19 million. It's like we're in the fucking Twilight Zone, because every single mainstream media outlet is saying the same exact thing that they were for Thor. Oh, it's the top opening of the franchise. It opened to more than any of the other Thor movies before it. Same thing we're hearing now with Ant-Man. One, this has a bigger budget, a significantly bigger budget. You're going from $130 million to $200 million, which means if you make $600 million on this, you're not breaking even. You might get your money back. And even that is pretty doubtful at this point in time. A more serious thing, when you're looking at the future of the MCU, take the $75 million that Ant-Man and the Wasp in 2018 opened to. Average ticket price was $9.11 in 2018. That equates to about 8.3 million people in the United States opening weekend went to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Well, if you take 105 million divided by $13.98, which was the average ticket price here in America, you get 7.5 million people. Fewer people went to see this movie opening weekend here in the United States than Ant-Man and the Wasp back in 2018. And that movie wasn't, oh, you have to watch this. It's the most important thing since Endgame. It's the future of the MCU. But fewer people are going. Like, it is astounding the level that this is failing and the level to which no one in the mainstream is really calling it out.
And this is the problem with, like, we're seeing it in comic books as well, where people just look at total sales numbers, or in this case, box office numbers, and they do not actually look at it with any sort of nuance. I hate that term, but I'll use it because it's appropriate now, because it's more than just that number. So when you consider something like inflation or the rising cost of tickets, you really can see the story, or the simple fact they spent more money on the movie. You can can see the story there, and it's telling. It's telling like, well, they are in a decline. This isn't really up for dispute. I think more so, you know, we talked about this before. I think it's that they don't want folks like ourselves, the people that they deem as their ideological enemies, to be correct. So they'd much rather, again, try to sprinkle shit and act like, well, everything's fine, everything's doing well. Ant-Man is doing better than what his predecessors did. But when you actually break down these numbers, you're like, well, these guys may make money, and maybe they will. It's not to say that, but if it's barely, no company is trying to spend that much money, the spending is out of order, right? And if you're not getting the return, you can't really continue to justify this.
They have convinced everybody that the entire system is way different than it is. Yeah. They're getting less than half of these actual box office returns. But then people are like, oh, well, look, they're making money on streaming. No, they're not. We know that. $2.5 billion are the losses for Disney Plus in the past 6 months.
No.
$2.5 billion. That's what they're losing with these fucking garbage Marvel shit on Disney Plus.
The beginning stages, even with Iron Man, the beginning stages of the Marvel Cinematic Universe did a solid job. I'm not saying it was a 1-by-1. And where they did fail, they failed, and we would call out. But like when you consider like the larger narratives, they were pulling from the books, right? So Infinity War is essentially the Infinity Gauntlet arc. Ultron, well, yeah, there's maybe a change in how Ultron was created, but they were pulling from the source material to really get these guys together. Whereas to now, it's like they're just throwing shit out the wall, hoping it sticks. So how are we gonna have this person play Kang, like the Conqueror, like, and then we're just gonna throw him in a movie with fucking Ant-Man, and we're just gonna see what the fuck happens? Like, nobody's interested in that. So you're not like making material for a guaranteed baked in audience that has money now, because a lot of these people that grew up on this stuff are adult age, they got families and stuff, so they're the ones that are spending the money. So you're turning them off, and then you're trying to cater to a demographic of weirdos who don't even got money like that, and they are flaky in terms of their interests, right? We've seen that. Like, they can talk about it all day long. We saw this shit with Birds of Prey. Talk about it, stand accounts, yes, Queen Slay, and then nobody goes to see this shit. I was like, the only one in that motherfucker. They're not making material with our kind in mind. They really are telling on themselves that they don't want us as an audience, and that's why they're suffering in the way that they are.
You cannot alienate 50% or more of your target audience. Doing that is the recipe for failure, and the people who hold these ideologies around, okay, this is what we're going to do, they don't even know what they're doing. They're pushing away the people that really helped build the original followings, and they're catering to this demographic that they can't even afford to go to the movies, right? It's the most insane thing that I've seen happen in quite some time. From a business standpoint, we're seeing it with a lot of businesses. We're seeing it with a ton of businesses. At some point, you got to say, okay, guys, we got to stop. We got to stop. We're going in the wrong direction. We got to stop, and we got to now right the ship here. I don't know when that's going to happen.
Well, something's going on, because they're pushing back all their movies, and they're cutting back on all their shows. So
they're out of money. These motherfuckers are out of money. They had to fire 7,000 people. They're going to cut back on all their spending because they've already got debt from that big Fox acquisition, and it's finally catching them.